So today I'm going to do something a bit different than what you usually see on this channel, and that is to share 18 years worth of e-commerce knowledge with you and try to do that in as quick and as concise as possible. Now, what I did was make a bunch of notes actually last night as I was thinking about what I wanted to share. And what I have here are 15 high-level points that I'll be sharing with you that honestly I had to learn the hard way. And the goal with this episode is to help anybody else out there that is either new to e-commerce or has been in the business for a while and is looking for ways to get better. All of these 15 points that I wrote down, honestly, I had to learn the hard way, and a lot of them cost me a lot of money. And the goal is to eliminate that risk from you and make it so your life can be easier. So just so you know, this isn't going to be some overproduced video. There's going to be no visuals popping up on the screen. So feel free to play this in the background and take away whatever you can from it to hopefully better your e-commerce business and make it even more profitable as we move into the new year and beyond. So for those of you that don't know, my name is Anton Kraly. If you do know me, it's probably from my company, Dropship Lifestyle. I've been building e-commerce stores myself since 2007, and Dropship Lifestyle was formed in 2012. And since then, I've helped over 15,000 people from all around the world to build their own e-commerce stores as well. And like I said a couple of minutes ago, I definitely learned a lot of things the hard way, and I'm still learning new things every day. So don't look at me as some guru that knows every little detail about e-commerce, but with tens of millions of dollars of products sold and literally my eyes on analytics and Shopify day in and day out. Again, I've definitely picked up some things along the way. Some of the things I'm going to share with you, you may have heard from me before. Some of them may be brand new to you. But again, even if you can pull one little thing out of this episode, I promise you it'll help you and cut down your costs along your journey. So the first thing that I want to share is to sell expensive items. Now for us, that typically means an average order value of $1,000 or more. And you might be thinking, that sounds crazy, it sounds risky. Listen, I get that. I had those same hesitations when I switched from low-ticket e-commerce to high-ticket e-commerce. But I'll tell you, it is much easier to run a profitable business when you are selling more expensive items. And probably the simplest way I can sum this up for you is that with me and my e-commerce businesses, I am a huge fan of paid traffic. The fact that I can give Google and Meta some money and it can return back a lot more on my store is primarily made possible because we're selling high-ticket products, which means for every sale we get, there's actually real money attached to it. There's real profit. And some of that profit can be invested into ads. Now, back when I first started, I was selling cookies online for about $10 a box. I was making about $3 in profit per sale. And even though, going back almost 20 years ago, ads were much cheaper, it was still, even then, very hard to run ads profitably when you have $3 in profit to work with. If you have $500 or $300 or $200 in profit to work with, paid ads become much easier, and building a real sustainable business is really not that complicated. Now, I'm making that sound like that's all you have to do, focus on high-ticket products or expensive items, if we want to call it that, but that really is step one and just the first thing that I wanted to share with you. Now, the second thing that I made a note on here is that tracking really is everything. And here, I'm specifically talking about tracking your website visitors and which of those website visitors turn into sales and what is turning them into customers. Again, back when I first started and I set up my first website, I started running ads. I knew I was making money. I knew the money I was making outweighed the money I was putting into ads, and all was well. But after, it's almost sad to admit this, after a few years, I started to actually figure out how to track website visitors with analytics and find out where people were coming from that were turning into my customers. Because as I'm sure you can imagine, if you're getting traffic from Google for free, from Bing from free, from Google from paid ads, from Facebook from paid ads, maybe from TikTok, maybe from Pinterest. Yeah, it's great. You're getting a bunch of traffic, but what really matters is which traffic sources are bringing in your customers, which of your paid spend or which of your efforts into SEO actually equate to dollars. And this is something you want to set up sooner rather than later. Even if you're only getting 20 website visitors a day, you want to know which ones of those are turning into sales so you can know where to invest more money into ads and so you can know which projects to double down on. If this to you looks like Google Shopping ads, put more money there. If this to you looks like SEO, invest more into building out your content. And the only way to know this is to accurately track everything. It is extremely important and something that I wish I would have focused on sooner rather than later, and something you should focus on from day one. Now, I'm not going to get into the technical details of how to do this, but just know you don't need any expensive third-party tools. Google Analytics 4 with their Shopify integration is great. And same thing, if you're using Meta ads, connect that through your Shopify store with maximum data sharing, and you'll get all the information you need to see where your sales are coming from. So this brings us into the third thing that I want to share with you. And this is that you should outsource as soon as possible. And if you're wondering, like, well, when is as soon as possible? Is it day one if I have money to spend in outsourcing? Well, the way that I think of this is once something gets painful to you, because you should do it yourself in the beginning, then it's time to outsource. And for me, the first thing I ever outsourced was customer service. But just like with getting really specific and really staying on top of tracking, I waited too long to outsource customer service. I was doing it myself. It was taking a bunch of my time. And the truth is, I did not want to outsource it, even though the business could pay for it many times over, because I was afraid that somebody else would come into the business, that they would be responding to customers, that they would be answering phone calls and responding to live chats. And I was afraid they would hurt the business. When in reality, what happened when I finally hired somebody is I got somebody that was actually good at customer service. People heard back from us faster, and customers were actually happier. Also, it freed up a ton of my time to invest into things that really matter, like getting better with tracking, getting better with advertising, picking up new suppliers, and really focusing on lead value optimization, which I'll also talk about later in this episode. But just know that once you're doing something in your business and you understand how the process works, once it gets painful, meaning you're investing a ton of your time into it and you really don't want to do it anymore, that is when it's time to outsource. And typically, I know from speaking to thousands of Dropship Lifestyle members, this is something that people hold on to for too long. So outsource sooner rather than later. Now, the fourth thing that I want to share with you is it doesn't seem like something you need to know if you're building an e-commerce business, especially if you're building it as a lifestyle entrepreneur or a lifestyle business owner like what we do. And that is you should learn sales. Now, I'm not saying go sign up for a bunch of sales courses from sales trainers online or anything like that, but go to Amazon, go to Barnes & Nobles, whatever, and pick up books on understanding selling psychology and buying psychology, because what you're going to do here is pick up a bunch of things that you can actually implement on your digital store. Different things that really move the needle. What are psychological triggers, I should say, that turn people into customers? These are things that you'll be able to leverage into your copywriting and even add in to your buying funnel. Now, I'm not saying like build a funnel as most people think of it now, like Russell Brunson kind of introduced to the world, where you have like OTO1 and OTO2. I'm not even talking about that. But what you want to be doing here is learning what makes people buy and what people actually want after they buy. Now, a way that I learned this, again, the hard way, is the first network of stores that I ever sold. This was in, I believe, late 2011 or early 2012. I sold them for more money than I ever thought I would see in my life. And I was kind of worried, like, what was going to happen when the new owner took these businesses over, simply because I had run them for the lifetime of the businesses and I knew how to run them and I knew how much money they made and kind of the consistency of them. But what would happen, this is in my mind, if the new owner takes over and they just simply stop performing, right? Is he going to get mad? Is he going to want to refund? Like, what happens? And what happened, and I quickly learned after speaking to him a couple of weeks after they bought the business, was that they were making more money than I ever did before after they bought it, because the person that bought it was not an e-commerce guy, but he was a sales guy. And he basically started to build in to the order forms when people were going through checkouts on the stores, ways for them to upgrade their orders. So to purchase things like expedited shipping, to purchase things like extended warranties. And what I found out very quickly is that many customers actually wanted these things. They actually increased his conversion rate, and they actually made him a lot more money because people were spending more with their average order value. So by hearing that, I quickly asked him for a bunch of recommendations for how can I learn these things. And I added them on to all the stores I still had and all the stores that I built in the future. And guess what? I started making more money. So even though, again, I totally get it, you don't want to be a salesperson. I don't consider myself a salesperson either. It is worth picking up some books on it, understanding buyer behavior, and leveraging these things on your own e-commerce business. You don't need to be cold calling people. You don't need to be calling customers. But if you add these things onto your store, customers will be more likely to buy and to spend more money when they buy from you. So this brings us to the fifth thing that I wanted to share today. And this kind of expands on something I alluded to earlier, which is to sell your customers what they already want. Now, I call this LVO. It stands for lead value optimization. And this is something I discovered, again, after 5+ years in business that went on to make us a lot more money. And the way I think about this is, let's say you're doing what I primarily do and what I teach over at Dropship Lifestyle, and selling high ticket items. Let's say you are building a store that sells drum kits, right? So drum sets for beginners. Now, traditionally, what I would do is build that store. I would get authorized to sell for the best brands that make beginner drum kits. I would advertise them, get customers, sell them their drum kits, and all is well. Everyone's happy. Well, I don't even know how I stumbled upon this, but I started thinking, what can I do to make more out of this store, right? And I started just to think, and you should do this for yourself, for your own e-commerce business. What else would my customers want that we simply don't offer? And in this example, I would think, okay, it's a drum set for beginners. They probably want to learn how to play the drums. So why not go on Google and find the best online drum schools and partner with them as an affiliate, where we can promote their online drum lessons or their online drum courses, where our customers already want that. And when they buy it, we earn a commission. Makes sense, right? And then what about lower ticket products? Now, I mentioned earlier, right? We focus on expensive items, but what if we were selling a $500 drum kit, and as the person was checking out on the product page, they can add on drumsticks? Probably going to want them, right? Let's sell it to them right there. It's not going to have us advertising some low ticket product, but it's going to increase our average order value if we're selling customers what they already want. And what I would encourage you to do, no matter what niche it is you sell in, get a pen and paper, write down your niche, and then just start to write around it, right? Like, what else would my customers possibly want? And you can add those things on. So it might be, again, some type of company you can partner with as an affiliate where you can promote their product or service to your customers. It might be a lower ticket product that you can have customers have the ability to add on your product pages. It might even be things like I mentioned earlier, like expedited shipping or extended warranties. Think of all these things, brainstorm them. You can add them to your store. And again, sell your customers what they most likely already want or need. Not only can this increase your average order value, but again, it can also increase your conversion rate. So it's a win-win for you and for your customers. Now, the next thing that I think is extremely important, and luckily I did do early on, but I see a lot of people kind of wait too long, and this is to form a business entity. So if you're in the States, basically your options are you can do business as a sole proprietor, meaning you're doing business as yourself. That's actually how I started. But if you don't want to start that way right away, you don't have to. But even if you do, once you see you're making sales and you know this is something you're serious about, my advice is to form an LLC and elect to have it taxed as an S corporation. So I'm not going to get into all the specifics. Again, that's not the purpose of this episode. But what that's going to allow you to do is have the separation from yourself and your business, which helps for basically liability purposes. It also helps with taxes and will save you money. You'll be paying a lot less if you do this the right way, of course. But if you have an LLC taxed as an S corporation rather than just doing business as a sole proprietor, but it's also going to, again, if you do this correctly, keep your business expenses separate from your personal, which is going to be extremely helpful to you over time if you ever want to sell your business. And you might be thinking, I don't want to build a business to sell. I just want to have income that I control. That's great. That's usually why I start businesses too. But if you ever do want to sell, if something ever comes up, if things are separate from yourself, it makes the whole process of selling that business so much easier. Okay, this brings us into the seventh thing that I wanted to cover today, and that is that small dollar amount wins and savings really compound into massive amounts over time. So this can be related to anything in your business, any expenses you have or might have in the future. But I'm going to give you one that for me is just as clear as day that I literally would have saved hundreds of thousands of dollars on if I picked up on this earlier. So a lot of items we sell, again, they're expensive, they're large, they're heavy, they ship via freight carriers. So freight shipping is a lot more than if something was going to ship with UPS or FedEx. Now, again, because I'm mostly drop shipping, I am not actually, warehousing these products. But before I was even drop shipping, I was actually importing products directly from China. I was keeping them in fulfillment centers in the States. And then when I sold them, I would tell the fulfillment center, okay, ship product 1, 2, 3 to customer ABC. And what I was doing originally, because I was using these fulfillment centers, is just having them ship on their accounts. They would obviously charge us for the shipping when the order went out. We would pay it, all is well. Well, after literally years of this and probably spending close to 7 figures in shipping, again, doing, 8 figures plus in revenue. So not like any crazy amount that really like looked to me like, oh, we're losing all this profit, because we were still making great profit margins. But I realized, what if we don't use their in-house shipping? What if I go online and find different companies that offer the same shipping services and see what rates I can get? Well, that's what I did. I went online, I looked up different freight brokers, which basically give you quotes from many different freight shipping companies. And I realized I could save $100, sometimes $200, sometimes more than $200 for every shipment that went out the door. And again, on one shipment, let's say you see $100 savings. Maybe you think, well, I'm still making $300, $400 net profit. It's not that big. For the years that I didn't do this, literally it added up to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars that I could have saved if I did this earlier. And again, this is just one example of how maybe what look like small dollar amounts per sale can really compound over time and equal hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in savings. So it's very important as you run your business, whether you want to do this monthly or quarterly, you look over all your expenses and you just think, is there any way I can get this for less? If it's shipping, it could be going out there and getting quotes from other companies and even sending these companies quotes you got from another company to see if they can beat it. If you see your cost of goods sold, which most likely is going to be your biggest cost, is extremely high, maybe this looks like going out to suppliers and trying to negotiate your wholesale pricing with them. By the way, if you're a member of the Dropship Blueprint over at dropshiplifestyle.com, I have a whole lesson on how to do this in Module 4 of the Blueprint. But all of these expenses, again, everything you can cut from equals massive, massive savings over time. Because one thing that, typically we look at as business owners is the top line. And then, of course, we also look at our profit. And usually for a lot of us, if our profit is high enough, then we're happy. But the lower you can get your expenses, the bigger that number is in between. And it might sound obvious, but I'm telling you, as somebody that's done this, that is kind of in the weeds of their business, there are always savings to be had. And every little savings you could find will compound over time. And if you build your business the right way to be around for 5 years, 10 years, almost 20 years, like some of mine have been now, those numbers will equal massive amounts that you will have in savings over time if you do this correctly. Okay, the next thing I want to share with you, and if you're keeping track, again, I wrote down 15 different things I want to share. We're up to number 8. This one is to run monthly promotions. Now, you might be thinking like, well, what does that even mean? Should I run promotions for an entire month? What should those promotions be? Again, if you're, I'm going to keep saying this just because I have so much. There's like 140 video lessons in the Dropship Blueprint. But what we do, and we did not do this again for probably 5+ years in our businesses, but every single month of the year, we block out a time between 3 and 7 days where we're running a different promotion. This might be a % off. This might be a bonus gift. This might be free expedited shipping. It's always going to be different. But for that time period, for that block every month, we know what we are promoting on our stores as that offer. And we're promoting this to our email list that we built up over time. We're promoting this to new website visitors by seeing it featured on our stores. We're promoting it on social media. We're promoting it as remarketing ads. And what this does is just give you a huge spike in sales every month that costs you almost $0 to acquire. Because again, these promotions, the majority of people that are taking them are people that you're re-engaging that have been on your email list or that have been following you on social media. And it's a great way to constantly have something new and fresh in front of people that are already aware of you to finally turn them into customers. And I'm telling you, like if you sit down for the year and plan this out, it's actually pretty topical depending on when you are watching this episode, because we're about to close out 2024. This is something that, you could plan out now for 2025. What do you want your 12 promotions to be? Get out a calendar, literally block them off. And then all you need to do from there is basically write some email copy, write some ad copy, and schedule them out. And again, it's basically free money and it's just consistent month over month like clockwork, where you're going to have a massive spike in sales for something that does not take long to set up. And the thing that, I'll say is like before we did this, again, like everything here, it's not like you can't be profitable not by doing these, but by adding these in, the profit just goes up so much because these people that, kind of are stale, if you want to think of it like that, in your audience that didn't have a reason to buy, you're giving them constant reasons to buy, constant reasons to come back, and it's just going to make your profits skyrocket. So next thing that I want to share, this is number 9, is that your competitors' weaknesses are your strengths. So with our business model, the way that we do e-commerce primarily, again, is on the high ticket dropshipping model, meaning that, of course, we have competition. Whatever we're selling, most likely there's 5+ other stores selling the same products. And a lot of people think like, well, why would somebody buy from me? Let's say you're launching a new store over a competitor that's been around for 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. Well, something that you can become good at is identifying the weaknesses of all of your competitors and making them strengths on your store. So something that I do religiously is literally go split screen on my monitor, where half of it, I will have a product page for a product from supplier ABC. And then on the other side of the screen, I will have that same product pulled up on my future competitor stores or my current competitor stores if it's already live. And I'll go through those top competitor stores and look side by side as if I was a potential customer and try to think, why would somebody choose them over me? Do they have better pricing, which typically isn't the case because we sell from map suppliers, but are they offering a bonus gift? If they're not, let's throw in a bonus gift. What does their shipping policy say? Do they tell people how long the item will take to get delivered? If not, we're going to put that on ours. If the product has a warranty, are our competitors showing that off? And if they're not, guess what? That's going front and center on our page so customers see a better value proposition. If they don't have support options right there being shown off, we're going to show that. If they don't have their return policy laid out, we're going to show that off. If we can have a better return policy, we're going to put that there. Basically, again, we're looking side by side at our product pages versus theirs and thinking, what are their weaknesses that we can leverage on our stores to become the strengths? Because better believe it, when people are shopping, if you have 5 competitors, most of them are going to look at your competitor stores too. And you want to make some relatively simple tweaks to your product pages that will make you the clear option and get you the lion's share of the sales for those particular products from those particular brands. Now, number 10, you should be persistent when asking for reviews. As you might know, if you've sold anything online, it's a lot more likely if you never ask to get people leaving a negative review over a positive. If somebody has a good experience, you could probably relate to this. How likely are you to be proactive to go out there and leave a positive review? Probably not that likely because you expect great service. You get it. Most likely you're not going to leave a review. On the other hand, if for some reason you have a bad experience, I'll tell you, in general, people are more likely to go out and tell the world about it. Now, what you want to do is make sure that the majority of your customers, they're going to have great experiences, that you are consistently asking them for reviews, because reviews are going to do a ton of things for your store. And again, just like with money saved, reviews are something that grow over time. You're not going to have 10 reviews your first month in business. But if you keep asking for them over the first year or so, maybe you're going to have 100 of them. Over the first few years, maybe you're going to have 1,000 of them. This is going to greatly increase your conversion rate and help you stand out as an authority in your niche. Now, some things we do to get these reviews, first off, of course, is make sure customers have great buying experiences, make sure they get what they were promised in terms of product and delivery time. But once those products are delivered, we send out a series of automated emails requesting reviews, and we incentivize customers to leave them. This could be as simple as get a $50 gift card to our store or get 10% off your next order. Whatever it may be, you can get creative for your own niche, but give people a reason and remind them to leave a review, because that is going to help you in a massive way over time to have your store become an authority in your niche. Okay, the 12th thing that I want to share with you is to set goals and stick with them. Now, I want to get a little bit more specific here because this could mean something different to other people. You might think, oh, my goal is to make $1 million this year. I don't think that's the right way to set goals. Instead, I think the right way to do it is to get extremely specific and focus on one thing. If you're already in business, that might mean your goal is to 2x the revenue from the previous year, right? It might mean your goal is to take your ads from a 10x return on ad spend to a 15x return on ad spend. Whatever that is, I recommend setting what I call a North Star goal, which is that main goal that you're focusing on. Now, what I do is set these for each quarter. So we have quarter one, North Star goal, quarter two, North Star, quarter three, quarter four, North Stars for each of them. And then what I do is once we have this North Star goal laid out, is actually, again, pen and paper, write down all the things that we want to do and try to reach that goal. So if the goal was, let's say, to take a return on ad spend from 10x to 15x, maybe the things that I'm going to lay out to try are to bring in an outside ad agency to consult in an ad account and to do a coaching call with them where they're reviewing all of our ads with us. Maybe the next thing that I set out to do is go through all of our keywords that we've appeared for the past 12 months that have led to under a 10x return on ad spend and cut them completely. Maybe it's to look at all the keywords that have brought in over a 15x return on ad spend and invest more money into them. Maybe it's to experiment with different type of ads for the keywords that are already converting. So if they're already converting for, let's say, Google Shopping, now what I'm going to do as one of my things for this quarter is run them as search text ads and possibly display ads as well. So you have that North Star goal, which should be one thing, and then all the things that you're going to do to support that goal listed out below it. And those are the things you're going to be executing on throughout the quarter in order to reach that North Star. This is a lot better than just thinking, I hope this quarter is better than last, or just picking a number like I want to do $1 million and hoping that happens. Because unless you have that specific goal with what you're going to do laid out under it, it's very hard to ever reach goals, if not by luck. Okay. The next thing, this is extremely important. Like these all are. I keep saying that because these are all things that have been game changers for me and have just led to, so much better results over my 18 years in this business. But the next one is to create what I call a changelog for your business. Now, a changelog is basically a list of everything that you've done that could affect outcomes. So, for example, you might want to create this as a Google Sheet where column A is the date, so the date of the change that was made. Maybe column B is what the thing was that was changed, and column C is notes on how you think this change will affect how this change you think will affect your business, and then column D is basically a review for how it actually did affect things. Now, I recommend this for a few reasons. And the first is, as a business owner, most likely you're a solopreneur or have a small team. We're about 20 people right now. I still consider that a small team, but we're constantly trying new things and making changes. And I want to be able to know if sales were down last week, what could have caused that? Or if sales were up last week, what could have caused that? And when you're constantly trying all these different things, it's very easy to make a change in the morning and literally by the afternoon, forget that change was ever made. So some examples of things you might put on your changelog is that on Sunday, the 1st, you went into Google Ads, right? So that would be column B. And the change was that you increased your CPC for X amount of keywords. And the expected result was that you were going to have less search impression share lost because you're spending more. Well, now we have that in our changelog. So a week from now, we can go back, check our changelog and be like, oh yeah, we made that change. Let's look and see how it actually affected things. Another example would be you edit one of the emails in your abandoned cart automation because your previous one had a low open rate. So you change the headline, right? So you would put the date the change was made, the platform where it was changed, maybe it's Shopify email or Klaviyo, whatever you're using. Expected result is that you're going to increase open rate on email 3 of your abandoned cart sequence from 35% to 50%. And then a week later, you can go back and actually make a note of did that help or did it not? And if it didn't, you can go back and revert the change. Extremely important. I highly encourage every e-commerce store out there to do this. Make a changelog for your business. Okay. 14th thing that I want to share is how important the recency and frequency of website visitors is when it comes to remarketing. Now, remarketing is most likely going to have an amazing return on ad spend for your business. It does for ours. But when it comes to the recency and frequency of when people visited your store, people that have been to your site more often in a shorter amount of time, I should say, are going to be the ones that most likely turn into customers. What that means is, if possible, we want to have very segmented, small remarketing campaigns that are showing to the most recent and frequent website visitors that found us. So this is where it gets tricky because it depends on how much website visitors you are getting, because you need to have enough website visitors in a short amount of time to have these highly segmented remarketing campaigns. For example, if you wanted to have a remarketing campaign for people that only visited your store in the last 24 hours, you need to have well over 100 people a day coming to your store in order for that audience to be big enough for these ads to show to. So if you don't get that many website visitors, and if your audiences take longer to fill up, then you need to have maybe a 30-day remarketing audience, or a 60-day, or a 90-day. And while those should still be very profitable for you, just know as your traffic grows over time, my advice is to definitely segment your remarketing campaigns, and if possible, have a 24-hour remarketing. Then have a 48-hour remarketing that excludes the 24. Then have a 5-day that excludes the 48 hours. Then have a 10-day that excludes the 5-day. Then have a 14-day that excludes the 10-day, and so on and so on. But the more recent and frequent you can get people into a remarketing audience, the higher return on ad spend you will see. Because just, common sense or logic, think of it this way. If somebody goes to your website today and abandons the cart, they're much more likely to come back and be a customer than if they came to your website 30 days ago and then saw a remarketing ad. So keep that in mind. And again, as your traffic grows, dissect this more whenever possible and break down your remarketing audiences to be more recent and more frequent website visitors. Okay, this brings us into the 15th thing that I wanted to share in this episode, and this is to eliminate as much risk as you can with your business. Now, there's so many different things that you can do to eliminate risk, but one of the biggest things that I see a lot of people, even successful people, make a mistake with is by basically putting all their eggs in one basket, if you want to say it that way. And the way I see people do this is with the suppliers they sell for and the products that they sell. Now, what I do with our specific method of dropshipping, high ticket e-commerce, is we try to get as many brands on board as possible, and we try to sell for every quality brand in our niche. Now, the opposite of this would be if you found a niche you want to sell in, you get approved or authorized to sell for one supplier, you scale that store to $100,000 a month, and let's say you have 50% profit margins, you are making bank, you are very happy. Well, what happens if that one supplier says, hey, next month, you know what, our costs went up and now all our products are 40% more expensive? Or what happens if they say, hey, you know what, and I've seen this happen before, the owner is retiring and the business is going to be shut down for the foreseeable future. Either way, your business is not going to look the same because you were reliant on one company. In this case, it could be a supplier. In another case, it might be one ad platform that all your sales come from. You want to diversify this risk as much as possible. So this will look like bringing on more suppliers, diversifying your ad budget so it spends across multiple suppliers, and so that you're making some money over here, some money over there, some money over there. And if something goes bad or goes wrong with one supplier, you're still making your money. Or if something goes wrong with one ad account, you still have all these other sources that are bringing you sales. So this is something extremely important. Some things people often overlook when they're first getting started, because again, they might take off in their business, be making all this money and think everything is good, but you want to eliminate and diversify your risk as much as possible so that if something still goes wrong, you still have plenty of opportunity to win. So guys, that is 18 years of e-commerce advice shared in this one episode. I do hope you got value from it. If you did, let me know by leaving a like if you're watching this on YouTube, or leaving a review if you're listening on any podcast player. And if there was one thing that really stood out to you, please do me a favor, leave a comment below and share, because I'd love to hear it. And if you're totally new to e-commerce and you want to see, in my opinion, the best way to start, be sure to go to dropshipwebinar.com. I will link that up in the description as well. You can get a 2-hour free training from me there, plus a list of 500 profitable product ideas that you can sell online. So check that out. As always, thank you. I appreciate you. And I will talk to you in the next episode here at Dropship Lifestyle. All right. Thank you, everybody.